Hello, I am Stacey Fisher with Senior Resource Connectors, and I am joined today by Randy and Robert Sobel of Weedworks. They do education and consulting on all the medical benefits of cannabis. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Randy, I wanted to start with you because your story is very personal as you started this journey. Can you share a little bit about your story and how you started this journey so that people really understand?
Sure, no problem. Thank you again for this opportunity. We really appreciate the more people we get to talk to, the more education out there, people will know the right questions to ask. So I'm really appreciative for this time. So thank you.
You're welcome.
As far as my story, it started with my mom. Most people in our cannabis industry come from mission, come from purpose. And my mom had MS and she suffered from chronic pain, and she was on so many different narcotics that weren't helping her pain. She was still going to the emergency room at least twice a month on top of the boatload of medication she was on, and her memory started to go. So I needed to get myself an education on what else can we do for mom, right? And so I
Right.
educated myself on medical cannabis. This was back in 2015. My parents were snowbirds between Chicago and Arizona, and it was legal medically in Arizona, and it was about to become legal medically in Illinois. So I had a real small window to convince my parents to try it and to be open to it. So I took about a year to convince them and educate myself. And in 2016, we started my mom on a journey of weaning off of narcotics and onto medical cannabis. And she never went back to the emergency room again for pain once she was fully on cannabis. However, it wasn't a slam dunk. It was great that she got off of the narcotics, don't get me wrong, but every time mom went to the hospital, whether it was for a UTI or a fall, she would end up back in narcotics because no one knew how to work with mom who used cannabis as medicine if she ended up in a rehab community. So we were constantly backpedaling, which is how we basically built our business, was how can we help people? Because we saw that the home care aides that were working with my mom didn't know how to work with mom who used cannabis as medicine. When she would be having to deal with hospice care, social workers, physical therapists, doctors, nurses, you name it. No one knew over the past decade how to help my mom when we needed to find a place. When we finally convinced my parents to look at a senior living community, we would go interview them. My first question is, what are your policies on cannabis as medicine? What are your policies where residents can live here?
Right.
And I saw this massive gap between the seniors and the cannabis industry and the dispensaries. So that's when we decided to create Weedworks to help educate the community so that the seniors could understand what cannabis means for them and for their wellness journey. Weedworks, we do not make any products. We don't sell any products. We safely guide and educate people who are interested to the correct products, teach them how to use it and dose.
Right. And so when we have a client that is in pain, pain is the number one, I'm assuming. I don't know the answer to this, so please educate me. The number one reason someone as a senior would come to you would be pain relief.
Pain, yeah, it is one of the most common. The other one is sleep.
Okay.
Seniors have a lot of sleep issues. So,
So
yeah, go ahead.
so if someone comes to you, do you explain how that looks? So they come to you with either pain, sleep, sometimes, a lot of seniors have inflammation, that is not controlled properly. So what is the first thing that you do when somebody comes to you for the education?
So first thing we do is, we just listen to them, listen to what they're
Okay.
going like, and really take the time with them, right? Which is extremely important. And then figure out, okay, what are their major issues? Because most of them do have multiple issues going on. Okay. And then talk to them about what their goals are. What are they afraid of, right? What are their fears with possibly going down this path and helping to ease that. And then we get into, educating them on the different types of cannabis, right? And how they could take it differently. Yeah. And that's part of the question that we ask them. How would you want to take cannabis? Because you can ingest and get cannabis into your system in so many different ways. So So we go through all that with them. So, so we spend a good amount of time up front, just getting to know them and like I said, listening to them and getting to
Their
know what their
routines.
major issues are.
The
Yeah.
routines. Yeah.
And
Do you,
especially if you're talking about like with pain sometimes too, it's like we want to find out, okay, when does the pain really occur? Is it all day? Is it constant all day? Or is it certain parts of the day? Right. So we can adjust to, how they're going to take it and when they're going to take it based on that.
and I'm assuming you start with the smaller quantities to get some relief. I hear so many seniors, they just think it's an all or I don't want to get stoned. You don't have to get stoned. This is really a pain relief situation, but they have something in their mind, that's not correct.
Absolutely. And when we listen to someone, we interview them, we get to know them, their allergies, their habits, their likes, their dislikes, everything, when they eat, when they sleep, when they go to physical therapy. And most seniors don't want to get high. They don't want to have that feeling in their
Mhm.
head. They don't want that loss of control. So most people that we work with, especially those who've never used cannabis, start on just straight CBD, which is very anti-inflammatory. It has no intoxicating feelings, no psychoactive components to it. So it's not going to impair them. It's not going to, hurt them with a fall, God forbid. Um, and then we'll start them with topicals, especially for localized pain. So we slowly introduce cannabis into someone's system, and we can use a couple that we just recently worked with that had multiple issues. And, 1 week we started them with CBD and they had no reactions. They were great. In fact, they were able to reduce their pain medications with just the CBD alone. And then the next week, we added a little bit more. We added a little edible. But when we add anything to someone's diet at all, we've had them checking their care teams, checking cross interaction. There's a website called drugs.com. And we go
Okay.
onto the website and we teach them. The goal of working with WeedWorks is to empower you. We want you to be able to figure out how to navigate your life and your well-being. So when someone hires us to sit with them and go on that cannabis journey, we want it to end with them being able to figure out, okay, I am in a lot of pain, but I'm feeling really low energy. So this is going to be the item that I'm going to choose to make me feel better. I want someone to be able to figure out how to order their own medicine. So it's a lot of empowerment that goes on that we try to educate on.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So just in layman's terms, because not everybody is familiar with the different doses, explain to me what THC is and what CBD is for those that may not know that.
So THC is the psychoactive part of the plant, right? So
Okay.
that's the getting high part, right? And the properties for that is usually for pain relief, right? I mean,
Okay.
CBD could do some stuff for pain, but if you really have a good amount of pain, you're gonna need to have some THC. Yeah, you're just
Okay.
gonna, right? And like you said, CBD, CBD is non-psychoactive, so you won't get that high feeling. And yes, it's anti-inflammatory. So if you got some, inflammation and some swelling, it could really help with that. So, and like what Randy said, like, people being able to reduce their pain medications just from CBD alone, because they've never used, cannabis before in their lives. So just
Right.
getting CBD into your system helps with what they call your endocannabinoid system, which, and not to get into too much of technical terms, but it really is a system in your body to maintain homeostasis, balance in your system, right? So it's I equate it to like when you're young, you heal really quickly, and that's because your endocannabinoid system is very active. But as you get older, it slows down and really slows down. So then when you add CBD into your system, it speeds that system back up. It regenerates that system. So
Okay.
that's kind of how cannabis works within your body at a high level perspective.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, that is great information. What are, I know you said you go to the drugs that to see if there's anything that works, if someone's on a drug, how it coincides with cannabis. What are some, if there are any of the side effects that people may talk to you about or ask questions about?
So this tends to be something that I definitely like to address because
Okay.
everybody is so scared of the side effects and what cannabis does to their body, but yet they're fine when a doctor hands them pills. And those side effects from the medication that take 5 minutes to interrupt your show with all the commercials, of all the lists of everything, that will kill you. When it comes to cannabis, there's very few side effects, and none of them are fatal. You can get dizzy, you can get off balance. You could get a little bit racy, you could get nauseous, but
Paranoid.
you could get you can get paranoid. And there's a lot of people that have had bad experiences, but
Sure.
those bad experiences are not something that can be irreversible or that are fatal. They're not
Right.
detrimental. And there's ways that you can help mitigate those side effects. CBD can help mitigate those side effects. There is a terpene in black peppercorns, whole black peppercorns. I always like to educate everybody on that. The terpene in the whole black peppercorn can take away that feeling, that heart racy, panicky feeling that you can get.
That's
So
interesting.
that definitely helped me with my mom.
And there's two other things too with cannabis. I mean, specifically CBD. CBD naturally lowers your blood pressure. So if somebody has really low blood pressure, like my dad does, right? So he
Right.
can't take cannabis because he can't afford to have his blood pressure be any lower than where it like currently is. Now, it wouldn't drop it like significantly, but still, it's still something to be aware of, right? If you're going to be using cannabis, and the other one too is with blood thinners. So if you're on blood thinners, cannabis can reduce the effectiveness of the blood thinners. So those
Okay.
are just like two kind of common things that especially seniors have, those two things, whether it's, blood pressure issues or they're on blood thinners, so
No, they
we make
do. That's a
yeah,
common. My dad is on two of those, right now. So he
Very
would,
common. So we make
yeah,
sure that everybody understands how cannabis will work in their body, but there are plenty of seniors that are using cannabis and on blood pressure medications and blood thinner medications and are just fine, as long
okay.
as they know how to dose themselves properly, which is where we come in.
That is where you come in. One more question before we get into how you come in, or it's more of a statement. Um, I was talking to an orthopedic surgeon because I have to go in for some surgery, and he's talking about some of these meds. He asked me what I do for a living, and I was telling him, and he's like, I hate the doctors that just prescribe our seniors with some of these high potency painkillers because it's really just a hip breaking moment, because they do fall, they do get tired. There are so many side effects from so many of these drugs that you were saying before that people are just, they see it, they're watching their CNN at night and they see those drugs being advertised and it's detrimental. So how do you um, educate the physicians in our community in across, or how does the cannabis world educate the physicians on the benefits of cannabis?
that's a great question.
The challenge.
Yeah, it's a hurdle.
Yeah.
It's a hurdle because the endocannabinoid system, which is what Rob brought up before, it's not studied in medical school. And we all have an endocannabinoid system. We have these receptors in our body that help the medicine work in our system, but doctors weren't trained that way. So it's definitely a roadblock to educate them because, an example is there was a story that broke that cannabis affects your cardiac health that came out
Okay.
recently, but it was not accurate because if you take cannabis in very high levels of THC, yes, that can cause issues. Nothing like undifferent than any other type of medication. If you take it in high levels, it can have detrimental impacts to your body. So much of the information that doctors are given and that are studied here, unfortunately, because cannabis is not federally legal, they don't always get all the information. They don't know the questions to ask. They don't know what to even look for half the time. So we definitely have a challenge, and getting in front of doctors is something that we greatly want to do. Any doctor that will sit down with us, I welcome that, because we want to look at all sides of how cannabis affects everybody. And we want to make sure that we are giving people the proper information. But I feel like the doctors are a disservice to their patients when they don't understand how cannabis works as medicine.
And not all. I mean, we're seeing more and more doctors, especially when it comes to pain, because when we were working at Cureleaf and doing events at Cureleaf, we would see people come from Mayo um, in Phoenix, come to that dispensary, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm having a procedure, but I don't want to be on pain medication." So the doctor told me to go to a dispensary and go get some medication. So we're seeing that, and also from a personal experience too, there are certain illnesses or conditions that it is widely known that cannabis is very helpful. And one of those is epilepsy. So our daughter has epilepsy. She got diagnosed like a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And when the doctor gave us the diagnosis, he was the head of neuro in Tucson. And we asked him, we're like, well, what about cannabis? Like, what are your thoughts on her using cannabis? Because he brought up the risks or what to watch out for in behaviors that could cause seizures, and heavy partying was a lot. So we asked him, we knew the answer, but we asked him, like, well, what about cannabis? He's like, oh my God. He's like, CBD is an epileptic's best friend. So have her take CBD. Absolutely. So there are certain doctors that are more willing than others to learn about it and then recommend it.
And
Well,
the other thing on that note, I don't want to forget, is a lot of doctors need the patients to bring it up to them. So we encourage people to ask the doctor the questions, because a lot of doctors don't think about it, or they're not allowed to act, or they're not allowed to suggest it, but they can discuss it if a patient brings it to their attention.
that's good information to have. So I'm going to go back to something Rob just said. So a physician sends one of their clients before surgery to Cureleaf. You mentioned Cureleaf. So explain your relationship between Cureleaf and Weedworks and what exactly that does, how people get in touch with you.
So we started with Cureleaf. We created a pilot program with Cureleaf a year and a half ago to be able to go out into the senior community, educate the seniors, and then tie that back in with Cureleaf at the dispensary. So those same people that we go and do our education with out in the community can come to Cureleaf, and we can walk them through what it means to be in a dispensary, teach them how to shop at a dispensary, teach them how to find the right products for their ailments. And Cureleaf was 100% on board with this program. They wanted to connect with the 55 and older community, with the medical community at large. So they believed in what we were trying to do, because back when cannabis was only medically legal here, you needed to have that medical card in order to get products, and you had to get a license. And when you got that license, you had access to education. But when the pandemic hit back in 2020 is right when Arizona became adult use, recreational, so that anyone 21 or older can go into a dispensary and buy, no different than a liquor store. But when that happened, the education kind of went away. The medical community and the seniors kind of got pushed aside, and that level of education is not around, which is why Weedworks exists. Cureleaf cared about creating this program and fixing that situation so that we can go out into the community and tell people where to go to access their medication at a safe place, knowing that when we go out there and we say, you can go to shop at Cureleaf, go to Cureleaf in Scottsdale. It's right by Mayo. You can meet us there. We can help you find what you need. And we've already educated the people that work there. It's another piece of it is because, again, when adult use and rec took over, the people that work in a dispensary, they're called bud tenders. So when you go into a dispensary and you're asking questions, they're the people that help you are bud tenders. And those bud tenders need to understand how to talk to the seniors, how to talk to someone who walks up to the counter who's 75 years old and has zero clue what they're asking for or what they need. So they need to rely on that person across the counter. So it's real important that when Rob and I work with a dispensary, that we make sure that the staff there knows how to work with this community. So if we're not there, we still know that, Stacey, if you go there with your family, that you're going to get the proper education and help you need. And Cureleaf really believed in our program.
Oh, that's wonderful. How often are you out? Are you still out in Cureleaf a couple times a week, or once a week, once a month? You used to do education out there, or just be part of their?
Yeah, right now it's a little bit of a summertime break with everybody here in Arizona. Everyone kind of takes breaks with events. So everything is kind of quieted down, which is wonderful. And it's going to pick back up shortly as life starts to turn when the heat starts to not be as much of a hindrance here in Arizona.
Yes, bad October, sadly.
Right. For sure.
But right now, if someone gives you a call, that you would be happy to do a consultation and meet them at Cureleaf and introduce them
Oh,
to the district.
absolutely. So we have three parts to our business. You know, one is the program that we work with dispensaries and we contract with dispensaries, not just Curaleaf. And the other part, two parts of our program, which are super important, is that we educate the healthcare community. So we have in-service programs for home care companies, hospice care companies, senior living providers, because they're working with patients that use cannabis as medicine. So we go in and we have an in-service that we can educate those care teams. And we also have concierge services. So those individuals that really want to learn how to use cannabis as medicine can hire us for that one-on-one hand-holding. Whether it's, 1 hour or one meeting, we've had clients that hire us for multiple months because we create care plans so that we tweak their medication. No different than if you go to the doctor and you say, I have a cold, I have a sinus infection, and they put you on something and say, if you're not better in 5 days, you're going to call me, right? And we're
Right.
going to tweak. Listen, cannabis works the same way. So it's individualized. People need to be patient. It might take a little bit longer when it comes to resolving. I have lots of itises, cubital, carpal tunnel, pickleball elbow. But I use cannabis for my medicine and I don't use Advil for anything. So maybe it'll take me an extra day to get to the other side of what I'm going through with a migraine, but I'd rather do that and put that plant medicine in my body. And I have the patience to do that.
Okay. All right. Well, how do people get in touch with you?
So they go to our website, www.weedworksinc.com. So, and they could, we have a lot of good information up on the site, and then they could fill out a request form to talk to us, or they could give us a call at 847-370-8419.
On our website, there's this company called Senior Resource Connectors, and we did a couple of webcasts with them. So if you go onto our website, you can see that. We discuss who WeedWorks is, and also we have one about how cannabis and memory care, how cannabis can help memory care.
That's wonderful. And I told you last week when we met that I worked in assisted livings for years, and you can see the difference in the wonderful stories when those seniors that do have the osteoporosis or they do have arthritis and they're not in pain, how it changes their mood and it enhances their life to another level. And so I hope with what we're doing that it brings more light to a lot of people throughout not just the valley but across the United States to let them know the importance of what you're doing.
Thank you. We appreciate that. It's definitely something that we're clearly passionate about. We just want people to get to know the right questions to ask and empower people to make choices for their wellness journeys.
Well, I love that. And again, thank you, Randi and Rob, so much from weedworksinc.com. Go to their website, check out all their information, and just make it a plan to just chat with them. They're so knowledgeable in their field, and we feel blessed to even know them.
Thank you, Stacey.
Thank you,
We're
Stacey.
grateful.
Yes, we are. We are grateful to Senior Resource Connectors.
Very.
Thank you. Thank you.